Thank you all for joining once again. Today we will be talking about workforce development in the emerging green job sector. Thank you once again. Michelle, you can go to the next slide. As you all know, Interstate Renewable Energy Council, or maybe you don't know, is a national nonprofit working to remove the barriers to the deployment of clean energy for all Americans. We do this through state regulatory reform, local initiatives such as our Soul Smart program, which helps communities around the U.S. accelerate their solar and workforce development. So we are pleased to put on this webinar, all of our webinars. You can go to the next slide, Michelle. All of our webinars that we have for the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance. Today's webinar is brought to you by our partners at the National Council for Education and Bank of America. My name is Janelle Hills. I am the Director of Workforce Programs. We also have Dr. Cynthia Findley, who is the Vice President of Workforce and Strategic Innovation at IREC. And we're joined today by David Hutchinson, who is a Program Director and will provide the presentation today. And he's from Tremco and leads the Rising Stars program. Today's agenda includes, as usual, a brief update on the Alliance activities and what we have slated for 2024. IREC's DOL industry intermediary contract was discussed yesterday, but just to make a quick plug for that, if you're interested in developing a registered apprenticeship program, please follow up with me in email. I'll drop my email in the chat. And then we will, after our introduction, we'll have a feature presentation with the panelists I introduced on the previous slide. If you're on this webinar, you likely know that good workforce development doesn't happen by accident. We have to be very intentional with our work. And in order to rapidly scale a diverse and sustainable clean energy workforce, we need to leverage best practices, resources, and strong partnerships, which is what the Alliance does. We continue to work to connect the dots to bring everybody out of their silos. We're all doing great work. But let's come together and address clean energy workforce development more holistically and organically, focusing on an aspect of the landscape from a new learner, a new worker, and how do we retain the workers we recruit in these roles. Next slide, please, Michelle. The National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance strategic areas of focus includes training and education and credentialing, funding and program design, recruitment and support of workers and learners, and employer recruitment and retention. We're getting a lot of information, a lot of questions on how do we retain our employees. So we are working to provide some best practices and solutions to address those needs. Next slide, please. Just to let you know that this QR code, please scan it. We have the Alliance website, as well as a LinkedIn page. If you have not connected with the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance on LinkedIn, you're missing out on some great information. So feel free to connect with us after the webinar or during the webinar, whatever you see fit, and make sure you're just linked in and that you opt in into the emails that we send so you won't miss the webinars we have planned. Next slide, please. Just to give you a quick update, as I stated before, we offer these webinars every third Thursday of each month at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. There is no webinar in December because you all probably wouldn't join and we probably wouldn't be presenting because of the Christmas holidays. This is what we have slated so far for the 2024 lineup. We'll be talking about union partnerships, weatherization assistance program, clean energy policy and legislation, and more. So make note that there's no webinar in April because that is a heavy conference month and a lot of travel happens in April for our industry. So with that being said, you can stop sharing, Michelle. Thank you so much. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. David Hutchinson and let him give us all the great information he has thus far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hills, Dr. Finley, and IREC for having me today. I'm excited to be here. This is something that I'm extremely passionate about. I think anybody that's involved in workforce development, it's not just because it's a job, it's something that you do care about and you invest a lot of time and energy in it, as I do. So I'm going to go through something that I've been working on for the better part since COVID began and give you some information on a program I've developed, a program we've worked on tirelessly at Tremco, and something that I feel is coming at the right time. So Workforce Development in the Emerging Green Job Sector is the title. Again, my name is David Hutchinson, and I'm the director of the Rising Stars program. So what I want you to take away from today, I want you to be able to establish the process of identifying industry partners along with appropriate roles within program structure. And you'll know what I'm talking about as we kind of go through this. Agency, the term that everyone talks about, is a great buzzword, but what does it mean when we're talking about workforce development and our young people today? Lead the conversation with what's happening in your backyard. I think what we forget right now is this generation is uniquely attuned to what's happening in our environment, what's happening in our climate. But it can be big in scope. It can be national news. It's not always what's happening around the corner or in the backyard. Let's start talking about neighborhoods as opposed to national scale. Scale it down, and then we can scale it up. Detail the value of underserved communities where focus. All right. When I came up with this program, the first thing we did is go to urban markets, and that was on purpose. They're generally overlooked, but there's generally a strong sense of community there, which means there's buy-in, which means there's people that want to see their young people successful and successful in careers, not just jobs. Who is the point person? All right. This is critical. If you're a company or an agency or a group that is trying to figure out why you haven't had any of this stuff land or retained, who are these point people? Who are the program managers? Who are the people that are responsible for success of these? Exposure versus opportunity driving. I cannot tell you that a lot of the things we tend to do in this industry tend to be more like summer camps and less like long-term solutions. So are we driving exposure through opportunity, or are we choosing one bucket or the other? And importance of market nuance. I reside in New York City. I know New York City, but I don't pretend to know every other market. So understanding that though you may have programs that work in certain areas, they will not work everywhere. You do have to be a little bit more nuanced in your approach to make sure you're reaching the goals you want. All right, so who am I? All right, my name is David Hutchinson. My role at Tremco beyond this is deep energy retrofit development. So I'm obviously very involved in what we do in the built environment, and most importantly to me, existing buildings. And then what I envisioned when this started. So in August of 2020, when I was in my tiny New York City apartment with the apocalypse seemingly happened, I wanted to make an impact. And the number one thing was bring some positivity, communities that were typically overlooked, and build something that my company made us better stewards in the communities we operate in. I think in the private sector, we fall victim to making money in every which part of the country, but how much are we giving back in the areas that we make that money? And that was a strong point to my leadership team. And thankfully, they thought this was the right thing to do at the time. All right. So Rising Stars, what is it? I hope some of you heard it by now. I've been harassing most of your LinkedIns over the last 3 years. But if you haven't, we're based in Brownsville, Brooklyn, Roxbury in Boston, Newark, New Jersey, and recently this year, Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm up and down the East Coast on Amtrak and trains every day. But these are the areas that was originally identified either through program support or need. We'll be soon in several more cities next year, but those are kind of underway. All right, so what is the Rising Stars program? We want to basically create exposure and opportunities for young people 16 to 24 in these urban environments. The goals are not to force anybody into any one direction. And I'll talk about agency till I'm blue in the face. The idea is to present opportunity, present options, present exposure, but not force or direct anyone down a path. We want to let these young people make choices for themselves. We've had success. I think if you want to reach me offline, I can give you the success stories, because I think that is something that sells these programs, is using the young people as the best recruits you're going to have. And they're going to be the best recruiters you have as well. And growth. We've seen a lot of growth to showcase events. The World of Modular with the Modular Building Institute is one of our newest innovative ways of reaching the young people. So how do we tap markets where we are not yet set up? We grow through industry relationships. And cities for expansion. We're always looking, right? Every city in America could use a program that tackles workforce development. It's really, as Dr. Hill said earlier, not sallowing ourselves or saying we've got it all figured out. Create partnerships with groups that are doing workforce development. Find out where your gaps are and hopefully work together on it. And I want to make sure I'm clear on one thing as I go through this. This is not me preaching that we have the best program in the world. This is me passionate about something I think is successful. And I hope if you take away one point from this or one tidbit that you can use in what you're doing or collaborate with, then it's a success to me. All right. So the Rising Stars program, you're going to hear about a basic program, Rising Stars, and how that turns into sustainability. And the reason I bring this up is because you cannot just jump to me from nothing to green job sector. That is a massive leap. How do you place a candidate in this industry without learning the larger industry first, right? And building that trust, that compatibility with the students, evolving past the classic pipeline model. I can't tell how many calls and emails I get. Hey, we have a shortage of labor here. Oh, hey, we need manufacturing here. Oh, we need this here. Oh, okay, so you just want a body. What have you thought about this? How much criteria, how much time did you put into this quote unquote pipeline? Because for me, we're not just filling job descriptions, we're hopefully filling career roles. So what are the current challenges that I see today? Opportunity timelines. And I think anyone on this call that's worked in workforce development more than a year, specifically maybe even in the wind sector, if you're on the call, getting young people excited about something isn't that hard. We can all be enthusiastic. We can show the dollar signs. We can show the impact. We can do all those things. But are the opportunities ready when we're ready to give them a job, right? So if you're going to propose someone joins the clean job sector, are the opportunities ready now for them? Or are we still 2 years out? Are we waiting for projects to get approved? Are we waiting for funding to get approved? All of these things matter. Keeping a person that is 16 to 24 engaged for 6 to 12 months after you've had that initial contact is not easy. And you've probably lost them at that point. So are we mirroring our pipelines and mirroring our projects with the individuals we want to put in them? And maintaining engagement. This is not a pass-off system, right? You have to have a program that has connective tissue to that young person from the beginning through that first 6 months on the job, right? We want to make sure that if they do need to pivot, they're able to pivot. If they do need some advice from a career coach or a mentor, that's available. This is a long-term solution, not a short-term play to fill the jobs that we all know we need. So moving into the green space, you have Rising Stars. You have a basic fundamental understanding of architecture, engineering, trades, everything that goes into construction as we know it. How do we make that leap from that basic understanding to sustainable jobs, right? One group I'll shout out here, and I hope some of them are on the call right now, is from the Mass EEC. Through some really prescriptive grant work, right? Things that are focused on not giving you strict parameters on what your solution needs to be. We will help fund and support something if you create a model that can be successful. And I cannot tell you how difficult it is to create new programming that has 5,000 check boxes required, right? Now you've just come up with a program that someone created for you with really no instincts on what's going to work or not. All right. Now, how do we tie the trades to the energy sector? Seems simple, not simple, right? But we need to keep it at a very basic approach. If you are going in to be an electrician, right? What are the sustainable jobs in electricity? How do we keep those basic tenets together in time to the future of the industry? And also, are we doing it correctly? Are we creating enthusiasm, not just for saving the environment, but also longevity of career, because this is the next wave there. The participants, we use the Rising Stars program as our on-ramp, right? You've now understand the construction industry. You're excited about the construction industry. You're telling your friends about it. Now we're telling you about this next phase of it. So we use the leverage of this long-term approach to get there. And then our timeline. this is a year play, right? You need a year plus to get individuals from point A to point B, but how do you keep them interested the entire time? So this is an example of what we've done, or working on, I should say, up in Massachusetts. We use charter schools, vocational schools, as our recruiting pipeline. We bring them into the Rising Stars, which is that little emblem on the top right? And now we introduce them to the trades, we introduce them to architecture, we introduce them to construction. Then we work with our partners, like Julius, hers, and local education partners, to come up with assessment tools to see where they should go, right? Maybe you do not want to go to a 2-year or 4-year. Maybe you want to go in the trades. Let's find that out now. Let's not pigeonhole anyone. That's because you're in the trades in high school does not mean necessarily that you don't have the aptitude to go beyond that. So let's do some of the heavy lifting up front, so our industry partners and our hiring partners are getting the proper candidate at the end. And then we partner with long-term groups like the Finishing Trades Union, right? We want to make sure we have program partners that know how to train and know how to place. That's an important part of this. Who are the partners that are going to be the end users, but also the facilitators for you at the end of this? And before I go any further, I want to make sure I'm clear that if there is a question or a point to stop, I don't mind doing it. I want to make sure this is not just me preaching at the group for an hour and then we all say good luck to everybody. I want to make sure that some of this is thought-provoking and people can continue to have these conversations long after I'm done speaking today. Okay. So this is our journey map. Once we've started Rising Stars and we're going into the green sector, they're matched the program for their best career step, right? They have a career navigator. They have someone that's a part of the industry, whether it's a mentor or just a career professional, help them develop a plan. There's nothing more discouraging than being given an opportunity to be excited about something and then have no idea how to reach that point. Learning. We want to make sure we have workforce ready skills, right? Well, what does that mean? And we'll talk a little bit more about the industry involvement in this. Saying someone is work ready or job ready, what does that mean for each field? It's different. Exploration, right? We want to make sure that not only are we talking about step 1, this is how you get to that initial job. We want to talk about step 5, 6, 7. I say careers, not jobs, probably 5,000 times a week, and that's on purpose, right? We want them thinking about not turning a sign on a job site and not driving an Uber. We want them thinking about what are you going to do and how do we make sure that you see upward mobility in what you're doing, because that is the biggest carrot we have right now in this industry. Assessment, right? We're consistently assessing. We are doing something not to discourage or disqualify someone from going somewhere, but to truly understand what they're good at and what they finally understand what they're good at. I can't tell you how many times I learned something about the young person, but they learned something about themselves, right? They learned that maybe this is the pathway that's fit for them. And it's not just me telling them, it's them answering questions and finding it out on their own. And this is another part of it, right? So I want to, again, shout out our partner, Julius, in this, who has put together incredible programming to help us with this. And I know IREC is similarly involved in this type of work, where we're doing a lot more career road mapping for this exact reason. So climate change, as I said at the top of this, one of the takeaways from this is bring it home to them, right? When I work in Brownsville, when I work in Roxbury, when I work in Grier Heights, when I work in Newark, right? These are neighborhoods that are generally fall victim to environmental justice issues, right? They are not thought of when it comes to appropriate placement of things, as well as just generally great housing, right? In Brooklyn in particular, no one talks about flood mitigation when all of their houses and their apartment buildings are placed in those areas, right? So are we thinking about how they can be the change agent for the neighborhoods they're from? And anyone that's been in construction for any amount of time takes pride in any project they've completed. It is the one thing that construction industry people have that they hold on to tightly, is the pride of work completed. Think about when you're explaining to a young person, they can either build the house, right? Or build the solar panel or retrofit a building that they know and they care about. And this is what we try and do, is bring climate change, bring sustainability, bring resiliency home to them, make it a part of what they do day to day. I want to say additionally, we have a resiliency program in our Rising Stars. It is not always the most interesting stuff, okay? You see some eyes glaze over, but there are certain things that happen. I want to shout out Turner Construction for their continued work in resiliency and embodied carbon, and their support of the program, because they come to each one of them and do an hour and a half on things that sometimes go over my head. But if you're not having those conversations, again, How are you able to drive home the point if we're not starting at the beginning of, we're doing this because, right? There has to be a lot of, we're doing this because. Give the young people some actual reasons for why they're making these decisions, right? And the Icebox Challenge. You don't know what that is, but what that is a challenge to teach them sustainability. You have to have activities in this. And I know groups are, it's time consuming. It can be expensive. There needs to be a lot of hands-on work that's tied back to sustainability and the knowledge they have. You cannot teach through a panel session and not have action afterwards, or you've probably missed an opportunity, especially at this age group. And then retrofitting affordable housing. It's obviously near and dear to my heart, but housing in these urban environments is generally bad. How do we make sure they understand what a good building is versus a bad building, and how to be the effective ones to change them? Community engagement. I hope there's individuals, and I didn't get a chance to see everything in the chat of who was joining us here from the community side. Any one of the programs I've started has first started with, who is the community outreach groups that are doing good work in that city? I do not pretend to know Charlotte as well as I know New York. I don't pretend to know Brooklyn as well as I think I know it. So what I do is I rely on the community to tell me the needs and the wants and the struggles of the young people in them, right? They understand what the right fit is. They help recruit. And I know that's probably one among the toughest parts of workforce development is, where do these young people come from? How do we recruit? How do we consistently recruit to make sure we can meet our goals? Well, you use the community, right? And this is something that I felt they understand, that you are there to support long-term solutions. They will support it and bring you the young people to hopefully do that. And they'll help you find the right fit for it. Parental support is tough in this. Not every home is great for these things, but they see a change. They see their young person showing up after school or during school to a program because they're enthusiastic about it. How do we leverage this checking a box of something that they want to do as opposed to something they're forced to do? City buy-in. This is hard in our bigger markets, right? Cities have 1,000 different things going on, but we want to make sure that we're positioned with city officials, city individuals that understand we're trying to bring diverse talent to an issue that they know is near and dear. Every city has a sustainability department now. Why are they not engaged in all this work every day? And the private sector, all right? Private sector creates a lot of programming. I see it left and right, and that is not a bad thing. That's an excellent thing. But what it generally is, to me, is sometimes checking a box. And I'm sure maybe some people thought that's what we were doing. But what you need to do is, are you doing it for one time because you have funds available, or you have someone says we're going to do something, or are you going to dive into it? I would love to see every one of our competitors doing a similar programming and partnering in it, because I think it's that important to the industry. Okay. Consistency. So you'll see me in every photo here, and that's not just because I like how I smile at it. The idea behind this is, who's the point of contact? Who is your champion for everything you're doing here? For me, it's me. Every day I'm in a new city, meeting with a new group of young people and running programming. The boots on the ground part of this is really important to me. That is an output of time, right? That's resources that not everyone has. But having someone that is bought in and willing to sacrifice that time to develop this is important. Young people see people come and go. Someone shows up week after week, month after month. They understand this is something important. So that consistency is key. And is the person in your committee and that group too high to be directly involved, or not have interest in working with young people? Whatever the case may be, you need to identify that as early as possible, right? And relatability. Okay, this is the toughest part. This generation is unique, right? There's more technology in this generation than ever before. So how do we make sure that we're relating to them where they're at and creating programming that identifies that? Expecting buy-in without you isn't going to happen. I'll put that in quotes because that's important. You are the critical part of what this makes us successful. So, does the industry have a messaging problem? Absolutely. And as I alluded to this earlier here, what is the why we're doing this for? I would love every group on here to write down in front of them, and I don't need to see it, why are they doing workforce development? Is it to help young people? Is it to get the next grant? Is it to hopefully place people? Is it for exposure for the young person, exposure for the company? Identifying that why is pretty critical to me to how we're going to be successful in this space. What is your why? What is your company's why? What is your agency's why? Is it your need, or is it the need of the young people? And I'm not saying that I'm this idealistic that I think everyone is altruistically spending millions of dollars to help young people. But I think that there has to be kind of a core conversation internally about what is your why? Why are you doing this? And I think you'll find some answers after that that hopefully guide you to your next steps in this space. So what does success look like to me? Because I think it's different for everybody, right? Success for me is continuous development, long-term private partnerships. And what I mean by that is the biggest issue I identified earlier was, do the opportunities and projects match when we're doing this recruitment? One way to avoid that is tie your policies to projects, right? Tie your workforce development to 5-year projects, 2-year projects, 10-year projects. Make sure these partnerships understand we are bringing a pipeline of talent in when you are going to start, right? And now that what that requires is a lot more training of staffing, requires a foreman to be on top of things. It requires a lot of extra work, but developing these tie-ins to actual projects and not potential projects is how you get success. And I can promise you that is how word of mouth, that is how encouragement, that's how enthusiasm continues to develop. Long-term partnerships, Finishing Trades Union, one that I'll shout out. They're doing a lot of work in the retrofit space. They're doing a lot of work in high efficiency windows, right? But they also have something that is really critical to this. They have an existing apprentice program. They know how to train. So partner with individuals that have a comfortability with training and then provide the other tools. And I think that's something that I really want to hone in on. What are you doing to aid other groups to help you, right? Help them help you, help them help you, right? And that's what we do. You have to develop your programming that takes some off their plate, but say, you owe us this. And the best recruiters are the graduates. That's successful. One of the things that we want to do in our programming is hire graduates for our program, not as necessarily employees for us, as directors of their own little ecosystem, right? Give them a skill set that they can generate and develop. Have them from the neighborhood understand the importance of this and develop future talent for it. This has to be a perpetual system. We cannot assume that one great graduating class is going to beget another, beget another, beget another. Do you have a system in place that allows the young people to take some ownership for what they're doing? Because I think that's the exciting part, and I'm sure you would be excited about seeing young people do that as well, right? And how do you leverage their experience for promotion, right? What we want to do is, yes, shine a light on all this. I know everyone's on LinkedIn. We should be spotlighting everything more. And I know everyone's probably flooded their timelines, but don't spotlight yourself, spotlight the young people that are succeeding day in and day out. That's what we need to do. Give them the confidence to show that they can do it and that others just like them can do it as well. So what is the target age? And I could talk about this for a long time because I'm a part of several task force where we juggle this topic, right? We have, in one hand, we want individuals that are old enough, 18 plus, sometimes older, to be on a job site to work with no hurdles and potentially are job ready. On the other hand, in the green space, we say we got to start these conversations when they're in 7th grade, right? So, and I would love in the chat, if anyone is still at their computer, type in for me in the next 30 seconds what you think the appropriate age to start introducing sustainable construction jobs to. I would love to know what everyone thinks that appropriate age is, because I think it will differ for a lot of people. I'm going to give it about 30 seconds to see what we get in there. Ten more seconds, and we're getting a lot of great feedback. Okay. So I see kindergarten several times, which is exciting. Good luck. Middle school is a lot of middle school. A lot of middle school. Okay.
David, I think I saw 2 years old. Let's
2 years old. Okay.
let's put a hammer in their hand.
I want to meet that person. We got to talk about that. I want to, if you could probably your exciting ideas for me. Okay. And that's great. Thank you, Ted. That is phenomenal, right? So I just participated at the National Building Museum's Big Build event back in September, right? Which is ages 3 and up, where we're showing them all the different sides of construction, right? So yes, the younger the better. I do not disagree with a single part of that, right? But what does that programming look like, right? Because that event is great. And then you do the next one next year. If you bring that young person back every year for the next 8 years, I think you're onto something, right? But when we're introducing these programs, we need to actually understand there has to be a continuous nature of it. And who's responsible for that? We have an overworked teacher network right now, right? Adding this to their plate seems like a lot. So who's going to take up arms and support that and make sure that this connection maintains from the first time you introduce it? And I think that's really what I was trying to get at, because I think every answer in there was 100% right. We need to start talking about climate change, resiliency, all of these things as early as possible. But we need to be leading to something, right? We need to be guiding this to something that is actually effective. So is that working with the local community center for after school programs? Is that working with the school to have a clean energy pathway, right? Accreditation, all these things become super complicated. All I want this group to think about is, what is your group doing to lessen the load, to help schools, people, individuals do that? And I think if you have those ideas, please don't keep them to yourself, right? Let's be collaborative as much as possible in this space, because I love telling everyone everything that I'm doing at all times. My legal team doesn't, but I don't care, because I said if someone stole every idea I had, that means there's 2 people now with great ideas, right? So I think that's how this space really has to operate, is in that sense. Okay. So what is the formula, right? I've told you a lot of what you should do, just talk it down to everyone here. But what we do, it's just not lectures, right? Everything I do, this is the Icebox Challenge happening in real time right now. We're giving them actual tasks after being told the importance of air sealing, after being told the importance of insulation, after being told weather tightness, air tightness are important. We have them just demonstrate it and build it, right? And these are young people that didn't know what the term insulation was 4 weeks ago, and now they're working with insulation, sealing insulation, doing all the stuff we want them. So purpose-driven stuff to end somewhere, right? So maybe you end up being a glazer. Maybe you end up doing interior work with insulation. Maybe you end up doing photovoltaics. We had a great event where we had them learn how to anchor mini wind turbines, right? Whatever it is, it's tying the science, the lectures to activity and continually being repetitive with that. I'm not saying this is the workforce ready part. I'm saying this is building the foundation part of what we're doing. Trades versus AEC, all right? Everyone has been a part of this conversation for as long as I can remember. We have to stop tearing down this. I don't think anyone on this call does it, but we want and need every part of this to be filled, right? We need architects, engineers, and construction managers doing everything, but we need the trades just as much. So we want to, again, give them the information and the agency to make a choice. Remove the stigma of hierarchy, of all that. That is repeatedly done. The program should have every side done. We work with ACE Mentor Group, which I'm sure everyone hears from there, to come to our trade week, because we want them to see both sides, and maybe not everyone in ACE is going to end up in that field, right? The collaboration, the cross promotion is a really important part to make sure we have well-rounded young people, as well as individuals that are going to be great on the jobs, right? And then fostering those relations with both sides. Where does college fit into me? Do we need 4 years for these roles? Do you need 4 years right away? Are we asking those questions? When is that education required? Can they learn the skill? Can they job settle? Can they do on-the-job training? And then down the line, get that education. Education on top of everything for potentially underserved communities becomes very difficult at that point. How do we make sure that we have advancement opportunities within this little circle that potentially can advance without education required, or supplemental education, or certifications that are not necessarily college ready? And then the industry bottlenecks, right? We can't continue to talk big picture without showing pathways. And I know this is on there several times, but I want to make sure everyone on here hears me, that presenting the big picture and not showing direct pathways to it is doing a disservice to everyone in it. And I've been on plenty of webinars, I'm sure you all have, where we talk about the need for exposure, but let's continue doing that while saying this is the map to doing it. All right. And then lack of success stories. I think we all need some wins right now. So Does that mean we get a little bit creative on the job sites to make sure that individuals that are maybe not job ready right now can be job ready through some extra training, some extra time, some extra devotion? Let's get more success stories as a group collectively out there. And the time is now, right? We all know there's funding, there's money, there's an energy crisis, there is a dearth of young people that don't have necessarily a direct pathway right now. This industry can be a career for everybody, as we all know, because we're in it. So there's no time better than now, right now, to engage with all 69 people that are left on this call and all the people that were in the chat to collectively come up with your portion of the pie that's going to make this successful. And I, for one, would be happy to be a part of any conversation that is lending itself to that right there. So revisiting our takeaways. I know everyone is relieved because they have emails piling up and they've been paying attention the entire time. I tend to be concise when I do this here. Make sure that we're establishing a process of identifying industry partners along with appropriate roles for the program structure. When I ask a partner to join our program, the number one question I ask them is, what is the bare minimum you can do for our program? If it is providing pencils for an activity, great, we accept it. We need people that show up, not people that show up during the meeting and they're excited or in the first phone call, right? We need individuals that can consistently provide pencils every year for the next 10 years, right? Let's not get too greedy with the outsourcing of talent. Let's make sure that we have individuals that are bought in and are going to continue to show up. Agency, we are not pushing anyone in any one direction. If they do not go to sustainability, it's not the end of the world. If they end up in construction, that is a win. They may end up back in sustainability because of the exposure and the information provided. Allow these young people to start making some of these choices within them. We got to continually talk about localized approach to this. There is a national scale of all of this, yes, but what is happening in your backyard? How can you be a part of the change? How can you be a part of the future? We want to make sure they understand they are the conduit between here and now, right? I focus on underserved communities. That is not a prerequisite. That is not a requirement of any of this, right? There's clean jobs to be happen all over the world, but underserved communities, again, have been historically left out of the conversation. And so I would hope that people do think about that when they're starting programming or they're looking at programming. And again, make sure you are talking to the community. That's not just talk to the school because it's a vocational school. Talk to the community centers, talk to the mentors, talk to the outreach groups, talk to the wraparound services groups. Have those conversations and make sure it's collaborative, because you will get way more input than you could ever imagine that came out of it, right? And then who is the point person? Is it you on the call today? Maybe you're probably really busy, right? So who within your company is just enthusiastic to an annoying level? That was me, right? As you can tell. So find that person, let that person create. And I'm forever thankful for my leadership team from just saying, David, figure it out, create. And that is giving a dog a bone, right? Like I will. And you need that same level of enthusiasm, because this is a space that has ups and downs, as we all know. There's success stories, but then there's failures. It is, are you consistently showing up to correct and ask for help from individuals like people on this call to do those things? Differentiating between exposure and opportunity, right? So when we saw that entire rundown, everyone said younger, 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 and that's the exposure point, right? But what is that transition point from exposing them to this field to getting them involved and giving them actual skills to develop it in this field, right? And that's where the industry partnerships come into play. If they can tell you what job ready is, then start that programming as soon as possible to make sure someone's job ready. We want young people on the sites, in the field, on the factory, that understand what it takes to be successful. We don't want to set anyone up for failure, because again, we're working for the young people, not against them. And the importance of market nuance. I saw a bunch of different states and cities represented on here, which is absolutely awesome. Your state, your city is different than mine and one where I work, but the programming can be across all of them as long as we understand the nuances of each market and describing it and making sure that we're dialing in our programs to meet those challenges. So with that said, I know there's some Q&A in the chat, so I'm gonna take some time. I think there's 7 questions in there. I'm gonna go through that right now. If you have any additional questions, please throw it in the chat, or we'll go from there. All right, so the first one from Ebony, yes. What advice do you have for community organizations and trade schools to find funding to self-sustaining workforce programs and keep recruits engaged, right? So depending where you're at, there are so many grant programs that each state is now teaming with because of the inflection of the Inflation Reduction Act, right? Where we want to focus on to self-sustaining workforce. So I would partner with local organizations or workforce groups or apprentice programs to tie those things together. The trade schools in particular are really tied in with these unions that have some of this work coming. So make those connections. It's honestly what we've done in several markets is make those connections, work with your local clean energy center and find ways to adopt that funding. Additionally, private organizations are always looking for partners and recruitment to these places. So start doing some investigation on who is doing sustainable work in your work. Thank you, Percy Middle School. We have another comment from Jamie. I think everyone can read this, but I don't know if I can scroll on this. There we go. National help encourage workforce programs like the Rising Star. How to help them be successful, how to help them ensure they're reaching their representative goals. Yes, thank you from the Department of Energy and National Labs. Yeah, I think engagement with these programs is talking about big picture, right? Like, what are you looking to see, right? Give them some information, give organizations a kind of parameters of what's going to be the new thing coming out. Be ahead of the curve. Let them create programming that is to your goals from the Department of Energy and National Labs standpoint. And open your doors, open your resources. Do you have presenters? Do you have individuals that can support them getting off the ground with this? And again, pull in programs like Rising Stars and other workforce programs to different areas that you may think would need it. Let's help other groups start in those areas. I tell you, every city could use something like this, and there's workforce development programs that are doing great work like Youth Build and ACE Mentor that are all over, but maybe they haven't gotten to focus on sustainability yet. So how do we help them transition or add to that curriculum to do so? What metrics are we using to track your success? So graduation rate, we have for our program, there are certain dates and times they have to show. So they do have to hit that 90% attendance rate. So number one is graduating program. When you're doing after school programs in the city, showing up is the biggest win for me, because what that tells me is that you're going to show up on the job. You're going to show up when we get you in the workforce. So number one thing any employer tells me is we just need people that will show up. So that's number one success for us, the graduation rate. But placement, and I mean diversity of placement. Trempco ourselves hires individuals from our programs, but we place them at unions, we place them at larger companies, private and otherwise. So we do track our graduation success. Number one is who attended, who finished it, who meets the parameters, but then placement is an absolute one for us. Parts of workforce programming we're looking to improve on. It is the structure of it, right? I think one of the biggest thing is pulling all the information from the industry and all around it to understand what is the bare minimum. And I say bare minimum, I know people probably flinch at this. What is the bare minimum a young person's skill set has to be to make them job ready to start their career, right? We get so hung up on these just massive job descriptions for everything here that becomes so arduous, when in reality, day one, they're not going to know anything if they went to college or not, right? So as an industry, what can you train them on that they don't have to know yet? Like, let's take some ownership for training, right? We're companies that were built off training. We spend so much money on retention and replacing individuals. Why don't we just train some individuals from the startup and help that? So what we usually are trying to figure out is forcing the industry to tell us what they need and then own up to it, right? And I think that's the biggest struggle right now, but it's the biggest room for opportunity here. Build a relationship. How did I build the cultivate relationships with trade unions? Yes, it's not easy. You have to find the right unions. So candidly, and I'm not going to start a union war because I can't say who's participating, but it is finding the right unions that get it. And unions have been around a long time. I've spoke to unions because they have that apprentice piece, but I will just say I don't think I have the golden answer there. So I apologize. If you want to ask me offline for more in depth, I can do so. These aren't the kind of jobs young people dream of. So how do you maintain interest? Seems like they have to see the pathways lead to. Where do they start? Right. Yeah. So I think the maintain interest is important. And this is what I talk about. The opportunities have to mirror participation, right? If you have programming that ends after a year and a half, and then there's an 8-month wait till a job that you got them excited about, I don't have the answer for that one. That's tough. People lose your phone number at that point. People don't respond to emails. It is mirroring it and making sure you have things, whether it's mentor programs or internships, that continually keep pushing them. And one of the things that we started this past year, Stoner Development with Urban Green Council, is urban green emerging professionals serving as mentors. So talking about career development, talking about where they are in their careers. We want to keep people excited and see someone that's a little older than them doing well and developing, right? That's how you keep them excited. So I always say we have to start matching our young people with success stories. And that's why I kept harping on that, because those success stories will keep people interested. We need more young people talking about, I'm making money now and I didn't know I'd make money, or I see my friend that's doing this and he's not making money, right? Keeping up with the Joneses is the best thing you got in this industry right now. Do you know of any free online training an interested person can do to be job ready in advanced energy? I do not. I'm gonna refer to IREC and any other of the institutions on here to hopefully help Jenny Sales with that, because I think that is a great question and should be a part of this industry if it's not right now. Okay. If we want to start a rising star program in our state, what's the first step? We wait to the next slide. You'll see my email. Just shoot me an email and we'll get working on it. All right. I think that is the last question in the chat. I don't see any other hands raised, but I'll give it another second just in case. Oh, here we go. It says career readiness focus on mindset. Yeah, career ready does focus on mindset, right? It is removing the intimidation of getting out of the neighborhood, getting out of high school and going to a professional setting. I cannot tell you how many excuses happen on the first day. That's probably number one excuse time is, oh, I don't have the right outfit. Oh, I don't have this. The fear of success in this generation is pretty mind numbing and tough. So a lot of it is just the confidence to believe there. And part of the programming that's built into this is, yes, the wraparound stuff like mock interviews and professional discussions, but it's also giving them enough tools to their tool belt that they feel like they belong. And I cannot tell you, for this generation, they get in their headspace a little bit too much. So how do you make them feel comfortable with that first day that they belong there? And it's okay not to know anything. Every whiteboard I have in every one of my programs is saying it's okay to be wrong as long as you can explain it, right? Getting this generation to at least think through things, even if it's not correct, is the biggest hurdle. And that's something that I get the most fun out of, is doing that. Listen, unfortunately, it was not my dog. That was a dog to make you guys excited, but that was not my dog. I live in New York City. That dog would have been half my apartment. Okay. Let me see if there's anything
David,
else.
I see a question in the chat that says, can you share your Student Green career assessment process? I don't know if you addressed that one. I don't think.
I did not. Yes, I can, if you shoot me an email, I don't want to, it's still under work right now. I'd be happy to share it with select individuals. I'm not going to mass send it out there, but please send me an email. I can do that. Was there anything else you see in there?
No, I didn't see anything else.
Okay.
Someone said, I don't see your email address, David. Joan Fitzgerald.
Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Sorry, there it is on the screen right there.
Okay.
And Jamie, thank you. If you look in the chat, I know there was a question about free resources and energy efficient building. It's in the chat there, so please take a look at that if you're asking that question. Okay. All right. Well, with that said, that concludes my portion of that. I do want to thank everyone that sat through that and asked questions. Engagement is always fun for me. And I really do appreciate everyone that's doing this work, or at least sitting on here to learn about it. It's not just me that's going to get it be successful. So if you do have any questions or follow up or want to take anything offline or set up a Zoom, please shoot me an email. I pack my schedule with meetings all day talking about this, so I don't run out of energy, and I'm happy to talk to anyone. So thank you all, and I'll give it back to you, Jen.
Thank you, David. What a wealth of great information. I've been looking forward to this presentation. Love the work that you're doing. Please do not stop. I feel your passion. The young people need these opportunities. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't see any more questions in the QA option or the chat. So with that being said, we're going to give some time back to you all. I appreciate your attendance in the National Clean Energy Workforce Alliance webinars, and we look forward to seeing you in January. There will not be a webinar in December, but we will kick off 2024 with a great webinar series. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Thank you all.
Thank you, David.